G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Monday the 23rd of July 2018 and the time here is 10:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well folks, as per usual, loads going on in the world and it's hard to even imagine where to look these days, because if you want my honest opinion, I think there's a lot of misinformation coming out about a lot of things. And I'm saying that because I think they're doing it on purpose, just to confuse the shit out of us. You've never seen such a high volume of information just being, boom, 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 just bombarded at you. And I don't even watch mainstream TV. I don't even watch TV at all. So it's been, and this is just looking at the YouTube sites and, doing the research that I do. It's just amazing. It's just like you can't even begin to describe how much stuff is out there, and then also how much shit is out there. And the two are kind of entwined at the moment, and you've got to pick through all this stuff. But there was something in the paper the other day, the ABC newspaper, that I wanted to. This once again, it's mainly for Australians, and it was a really interesting article, and I want to show you guys that, because whether you guys know this or not, but here in Australia, we've gone through 25 years of what they're calling as a master boom, where we've had mining royalties, we've had everything. And basically, if you look around Australia, you got fuck all to show for it. They haven't built any new dams, they haven't built any new prisons, they haven't built bloody anything. No new road projects. Been bugger all really, for the amount of money that we should have had, and that should have come back into the Australian coffers. And oddly enough, we're broke. We're flat broke. So you got to ask yourself, well, where the hell is this money gone? Well, the easy answer is overseas. And I've said this before, and people need to understand this. And when I read this article in a minute, you're going to understand it even better. These companies that come here and mine our resources, etc., they don't pay any tax. They pay nothing here to Australia, just about zilch. They pay payroll tax, might pay a little bit of royalties tax. No, they don't even call it a royalties tax anymore. It's just called royalties, state royalties and GST and all this sort of stuff. And I don't even think these companies pay GST. It's just ludicrous how much money these people don't pay us and how much money they take out of the country. But we're supposed to be thankful because they give us jobs. Well, that's a slave attitude, and that's ridiculous. But let me read this article to you. It's actually a really good article. Basically, this is the heading: Queenslanders feel forgotten despite record 26 straight years of economic growth poll. The thing about this article is that it's actually been done by a very high a Committee for Economic Development of Australia. So it's been done at a very high level. Now, I'll read it to you. You can hear what it says. Queenslanders are feeling shortchanged from Australia's record quarter-century run of economic growth, according to poll results released today. The Queensland results form part of research entitled Community Pulse 2018, The Economic Disconnect, commissioned by the Committee for Economic Development of Australia, CIDA. Researchers polled 3,000 people nationally, with almost 500 of those respondents from across Queensland. The study explored who had gained from Australia's 26 consecutive years of economic growth, their most important issues personally and to the nation, as well as their attitudes to work. CIDA Chief Executive Melinda Salento said there appeared to be a disconnect between the country's economic good fortunes and sentiment among households, and the feeling was especially acute in Queensland. Nationwide, 55% of people actually said they hadn't benefited or didn't know if they'd benefited, which is a surprising result in itself. But in Queensland, that was 60%, 59, 60. So a slightly stronger sense of not having benefited from Australia's record run of economic growth. The poll showed that job creation and government support for regional development were the top issues of importance to Queenslanders. Miss Salento said this was probably owing to the fact that Queensland has a higher proportion of jobs based outside of the capital compared to other states, and that's true. The sense that we got is that the further away from the urban centres you get, people are feeling less connected to economic growth and the benefits that it's delivered or hasn't from their perspective, she said. The further away from cities you get, obviously the more important are things like regional development and job creation. There are almost 2.5 million people employed in Queensland, and around half of those, so 1.3, are outside the Greater Brisbane area. She said general unemployment and youth unemployment were both higher in Queensland than the national average and slightly higher again in regional areas. There is no doubt one of the factors impacting on how Queenslanders feel about the economy and their current circumstances, she said. Last page coming up. Stagnant wage growth and rising cost of living pressures were also raised as issues in the nationwide poll. Ms. Salento cited some alarming figures. She doesn't give them here, but there must have been some bad ones. 1 in 3 people said they were finding it difficult to live on their current income. So I think that's a reminder to us that even though the headline numbers are looking really strong, the numbers sitting beneath those aren't as strong as we think, she said. They didn't back that up with any figures, folks, just gave us 1 in 3. One, I can tell you that. GDP growth has been really strong, but GDP growth per capita hasn't been as strong. So I think that's an important thing to take into consideration. There was also a strong response to public opinion about the gap between the richest and poorest people in Australian society. In that context, 79% of Queenslanders, and I reckon this would be the rest of Australia, be 90% in Australia whole up, said that the gap between the richest and poorest was unacceptable. So I think that there's this question around inequality and that gap, but also just the lived experience of people in terms of how they're finding their own lives and their ability to get by financially. Well, the truth of the matter is, folks, and I'm in this as well, you just can't cope at the moment. It's just, inflation pressures are just astronomical. And as I said before, that's not going to stop. The inflation is just going to keep on going up and up and up and up and up. For you people overseas, I don't know if this has happened to you lately, but we had a 30 to 50% rise in petrol prices overnight. Overnight. Like they literally just put them up 50 cents and they haven't gone back down. So that's a lot. I've got a Land Cruiser 4x4 and it's got dual tanks on it. If I wanted to fill that up a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at, $300. I'm looking at $400 plus now. So I missed out on filling it up. I've got jerry cans and stuff, but that's not the point. It's just the point that if I wanted to go and fill it up today, I'm looking at over $400 to fill it up. $400. That's just my prepared vehicle to make sure that it's fully topped up all the time. So there'd be people around feeling exactly the same thing as me at the moment, struggling to live. And here's where I've got some advice for you guys. Try and do what I'm doing. Go and buy some chickens. They're $20 each. Go on Gumtree in your local area and you'll find people just want to give chickens away because they can't stand them. Grow your own fruit and veggies, which isn't easy, but try it. Better to try now than fail later. That's a really good point. Try now, fail later. Try and fail now. Don't try and fail when you really need it. And I can give you a good example. I grew my first set of vegetables in Perth a couple of years ago, had a bumper crop. The next year, nothing. Didn't matter what I did, couldn't grow a thing. And it was mainly to do with the sun. And we couldn't figure out what it was, but the sun's intensity was so bad, it was literally just wiping everything out. I couldn't grow anything at all. So I got taught a lesson, keep covers over vegetables. Look, anyway, what I'm trying to say is just make sure you're ready to go. You can actually grow your own stuff. You know, do you really need to go and buy 4 sets of clothes that you're never going to wear to add to the 14 sets you've already got in your cupboard? You ladies, do you actually need those 25 pairs of shoes that you've already got, and you're going to need to buy another 20 sets? And I'm just preaching from my experience here at home. My wife's a shoe fanatic, as all women are, and I just boggles my mind. You know, do you need to go and buy, 5 brand new bras that cost bloody $70 each? I just don't get that. Just don't get that at all. Why women put up with that is just beyond me. Is there a better way you can get cheaper items? All this sort of stuff. Just trying to reduce your cost of living pressures, because we're all feeling it. Every single one of us, and it's not going to get better. It's just not. I'd like to tell you that it's not. It is, but it's not. It's not going to get better. There's too much debt. Things are just going to slowly but surely start taking off. And they're going to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And when it falls off the other side, we would have all been broken anyway. So it won't worry us whether it goes over the other side or not, because by the time you get there, you're already busted. That's the whole point. So, use this, keep those open, and that, because it is going to go. And it should be no surprise to anyone that, well, hey, I showed you the other day, we're giving $6 billion away to these micro islands out in the middle of friggin' nowhere for fuck all. $6 billion. You know how many schools that are built? We're just giving it away. So it should be no surprise to any of us that they're just, the money's going overseas, because these companies are just bending us over and grabbing our ankles, and they're not even using any lube. That's the sickening part about it. They don't care. They just don't care. The more pain and punishment they give us, the better it is. So don't be surprised. I just want to show you one other thing. And this will make... The reason I'm going to show you this is actually to prove to you just how sick these people are and how sickening this is. And it's got to do with these major retailers. This is the company I'm going to show you is Burberry. And you're going to just... When you hear about this, you're just going to go, you've got to be shitting me. And major companies do this, by the way. So people like us can't have their brand. That's how sick this is. That's water, not vodka, by the way. I read this and I just couldn't believe it. I honestly couldn't believe it. I read that other one first, and this was in the same section. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll read this. And when I read it, I was just furious. Absolutely furious that in this day and age, this sort of shit is going on. So let me read it out to you now. Burberry burns unsold products and not everyone is buying. Why? So basically, if they get excess stock, instead of reducing the price and selling it on, they actually burn them. Let me read this, and this will just piss you right off. There are calls for an overhaul of the fashion industry after the upmarket British fashion label Burberry says it burned unsold clothes, accessories and perfumes worth over $15 million last year to protect its brand. It takes the total value of goods it had... Now this is really going to piss you off. Of goods it has destroyed over the past 5 years to more than $150 million. Fashion firms, including Burberry, destroy unwanted items to prevent them being stolen or sold cheaply. The Times reported shareholders were unhappy with the practice. Critics have reacted angrily on social media. Concerned luxury brands don't want poor people to wear the items. And that's what this is all about, folks. In a statement, Burberry said it seeks to reduce its waste and has partnered with Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Make Fashion Circular Initiative, where we join other leading organisations to work towards a circular fashion economy. Well, they're not, because they're not selling them on. But fashion sustainability groups have called for an overhaul of the industry from the fast fashion to the luxury sector and everything in between. It's not just Burberry. This practice is systemic in the fashion industry. It has been based on managing their reputation as a brand so that it's not diminished further. Unfortunately, that's what's driven this decision. But Mrs. Tueli, who campaigns for greater sustainability in fashion and fairness in fashion, said the dialogue on social media should move on to focus on alternatives for the whole industry. Why would it? It's a shame, as Burberry actually do have some great environmental initiatives within their own supply chain, So it's a shame that this end of the cycle hasn't been looked at the same way. A Burberry spokesman said the company had careful processes in place to minimise the amount of excess stock produced. Well, obviously not. They burnt 150 million of it. On the occasions when disposal of products is necessary, we do so in a responsible manner. Oh, that's good of you. And we continue to seek ways to reduce and revalue our waste. But they just won't sell it on at a cheaper product. Burberry claimed the energy created from burning its products was captured, making it environmentally friendly. Do you feel better now? Oh, shit. That made me wet myself the other night. I just nearly wet myself with laughter. I couldn't stop. So they won't sell it to me and you, but they'll burn it and make sure they generate energy from the heat. They burn off $150 million worth of goods. Oh, you can't make this shit up, can you? Seriously. And these people want you to actually believe this shit. And they think we're crazy. They think we're crazy. And this is what they're doing. And they think that that's acceptable. Anyway, I thought I'd read that to you. Just, if you've got Burberry products, take them back to the shop and tell them to shove them up their arse. Okay, folks, verse of the day. But what about you, he asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. But what about you, he asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Very good. And as always, folks, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. All right, folks, I've rattled on enough. Prep out.